Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be working on solving systems of equations using elimination. We've already solved systems of equations using graphing, so you can always use your calculator to check. And what I'm going to do is just go through some with you, and I want you guys to come up with the algorithm. You guys come up with the steps for what's happening. So as you can see, I've written down one practice problem. So let's start this together. Go ahead and copy these two equations down just like they are on the page. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to add them together. So if you need to pause to write any of these things down, otherwise I'm going to go ahead and add them together. So 11, so we have a positive 11 and a positive 19 is going to be 30. Bring down the equal sign. Now, here's where the elimination actually happens. Just like numbers, just like if I had a negative 5 and I added 5 to that, they would cancel out. If I have a negative y and a positive y, they cancel out, and that's 0. Okay? And then x plus 2x is 3x. So basically I have this equation where I can figure out what x is. If I take a number and I multiply it by 3 and I add 0, it's 30. I didn't really need to write down the 0, I just wanted a placeholder. So now we divide each side by 3. You could probably do this in your head, like 3 times something is 30, but we'll do the long way. That cancels, so we have x is equal to 10. Okay, but we haven't completely finished solving this equation. Remember, solving a systems of equation is finding where they intersect. We need a point, right? And our x value is only when we're meeting, not where we're meeting. So unless we go back and finish this up, we're not going to be able to figure out where they're meeting. So I still need to figure out y, but now that I have x, it's going to make it a lot easier. So let's put it back. We just need to use one of the above equations to figure this out. So I'm going to write down the first one. It looks like the easiest one. And it was x minus y equals 11. But I know that x is 10. So I know that 10 minus y is equal to 11. And now I can figure that out. So I'm going to subtract 10 from each side and try to isolate y. So that cancels. I have negative y. Don't forget your negative, you guys. Negative y equals 1. Okay? And that negative y, I don't want to know what negative y is. I want to know what positive y is. So I need to divide both sides. Remember that invisible 1. I need to divide both sides by that invisible 1. Negative 1 in this case. And I get y is equal to 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. So I have my x value and I have my y value. So now we can go back. Remember how I like to have you guys check these things. Now we can go back and check and make sure that's correct. So I'm going to substitute x and y back into both equations. So I have 10 minus negative 1. Okay, and the second equation is 2 times 10 minus plus, negative 1 and 10 minus, sorry you guys, I'm just thinking in my head, you've probably done this already. 10 minus negative 1 is the same as 10 plus 1, which is 11. And that worked because that was my answer there. And then 2 times 10 is 20, plus a negative 1 or just minus 1 is going to be equal to 19, which was the other answer I got. So the solution for the systems of equations, the point where they meet, is going to be 10 comma negative 1. Okay, so let's do another practice problem here. Going to, do we have enough room on this one to work. Let's do it here. Number 2. Let's pick a problem. Let's make this one a little bit harder. So, oh, these are all pretty easy equations. Okay, here's one. 7 times x plus 2 times y equals 24. And beneath it, 8 times x plus 2y equals 30. Now the first one was really easy because all we did was add them together and our y's were eliminated. But in this one, if I added them together, my y's would not be eliminated because 7 plus 8 would be 15 x's and 2 plus 2 would be 4 y's, in which case I can't solve the equation if I have 2 unknowns. You can only solve an equation if you have 1 unknown. So how can I cancel out my y's? Here's where it's going to get tricky. I'm going to multiply the entire top row, top equation. Remember, you can do anything to equation as long as you do it to each piece of the equation, by -1. Okay, so watch what happens. And I'm not going to tell you why we're doing that until afterwards so you can see it. So -1 times 7, I'm just going to distribute that through, is -7x. -1 times +2y is -2y. Don't forget your equal sign. And -1 times 24 is -24. Don't forget to distribute throughout the other side of the negative sign, okay? Now, if I look at that equation instead of the top equation, I have a +2y and a -2y. So what I was trying to find was a way in which to cancel something out. I needed to get the exact inverse number, the opposite number there. So now I can go ahead and add them. So 8 minus 7x is just x. My y's cancel out. A +2y minus 2y cancels out. That's 0, right? Equals 30 minus 24 is 6. So in this case, x is equal to 6. Now remember, I have to pick one of those original 2 do to place the x back in so I can solve for y. Why don't I go ahead and do the first one? So I'm going to rewrite it, but I'm going to substitute in 6. So the first one was 7 times x, so I'm going to do 7 times 6 plus 2 times y, and I don't know what y is yet, that's what I'm trying to figure out, is equal to 24. So let's solve for y. 7 times 6 is 42 plus 2y equals 24. Subtract 42 from each side. I'm going to get a negative number. Cancels. 2y equals... Let's see, -24 minus 42, -18. Divide both sides by 2. Oops, that didn't come out. Divide both sides by 2. And y equals -9. Whoops. So I have -9 is my y and 6 is my x. Don't forget to check. Let's go back in and see if this works. So I'm going to substitute this time back both numbers into both equations. So I have 7 times 6 plus 2 times -9. And the second one, I have 8 times 6 plus 2 times -9. And on the top one, I need to get 24, and on the bottom equation, I need to get 30. So 7 times 6 is 40. I'm going to do the top one first. Oops. 7 times 6 is 42, plus negative 18 equals 24, positive 24. So that works. Let's try the second one. 8 times 6 is 48, plus negative 18 is going to be 6 more, because I'm using 48 instead of 42, which is going to be 30. So the answer for number 2 is, my x is 6 where those two lines intersect, and my y is negative 9. Okay? So what are some steps that we have used so far? What are some steps that we've used so far? We need to add the two equations together, but sometimes before we do that, we need to make sure, multiply one of the entire equations to make sure that they will cancel each other out, but you can check that first. So let's just write down some steps. Step 1 is make sure one of, that'll go in a minute, the variables will cancel out, and this may require that you multiply the entire equation by a factor. Okay. And then 2, add the equations together. And then 3, substitute that variable, solve for the variable left over. Substitute that variable back in, and I'm going to do some more practice problems, although they may have to be in a different video. To one of the original equations. Solve for the other variable. Okay, and then once you have x and y, check your work. Okay, you may need to pause to write these down. Actually, I'm going to stop this video and start a new video for some more practice problems. It'll be right next to it, since my video only goes 15 minutes. So make sure you have all of these written down, and then let's try some more practice problems.